Well, it's good to see that the city council chambers has some value. Looks like they're using it for a storage room, so.
Everyone's having their Christmas put there because all of their kids are at home and they have no place to hide it.
Ah, makes sense.
So did you enjoy the WFRC meeting last night?
Now, why was I in that meeting?
Because we're the northern part of Salt Lake.
Well, it was okay. It was interesting, but I'm sorry, Karen, I looked and I didn't see your name, but you must joined after I looked.
No, my iPad says West Valley City iPad.
Ah, I saw that and was going to check and then didn't.
Yeah.
So,
but Katie introduced me at the very first because we'd only been out of our other meeting for an hour when we started that meeting. So
yeah.
I had already seen everybody's Christmas decorations.
Yeah. Okay.
The city does take advantage of that funding every once in a while.
$429. We must be awfully close. Oh, let's see how many count members. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who are we missing? Don, Tom, Karen, Jake. 1, 2, 4.
Lars.
6. Lars isn't in yet. Okay. Well, it's the magic time. So second, I got to get my call to order the study meeting of West Valley City Council. Pursuant to state code, West Valley City has determined that this meeting will be held electronically without an anchor location, given the ongoing novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. The city has determined that the pandemic presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. This meeting will be held electronically. Members of the press and the public are invited to view this meeting live on YouTube. They can go to youtube.com/user/WVCTV. And that completes the legal requirement for us. And by the way, I just authorized another month for electronic meetings. I think it goes from the 17th. So officially we'll continue that, but we still have to do the announcement. I note that all council members are present and accounted for. We have full quorum tonight. And next we have our minutes of November 10th. A motion on the minutes in second.
Move for approval of said minutes.
And a second.
A second.
Okay. And hearing no further comments, without objection, the minutes will be approved. Hearing no objection, then it is unanimous. Next, we have our review of our regular meeting and the Special Redevelopment Agency meeting. Of course, all our meetings are special, but we're say this one's special. Later tonight, there have been no changes. Any questions or concerns? Hearing, oh, wait a minute.
I have one. So I don't know who would address this, but on resolution 20-173, the 6 automobiles we're buying for the police force, can anybody tell me if those 6 automobiles have backup cameras.
Okay, so I don't.
Wayne,
I can't hear you.
Wayne, you are very, very faint.
How about that? Is that better?
That is better.
Okay, I'll fix that microphone later, but
Okay.
I'm not sure if they have backup cameras or not. Is Eric Madsen on?
Wayne, we do have Russ Willardson on, and I have unmuted him. I'm not sure if he knows that answer.
Okay, Russ?
Yeah, these are standard Camry hybrid vehicles. So yes, they will come with backup cameras.
Okay.
Thank you. That was it.
Okay. Hearing no further comments, then we'll go to a public hearing scheduled for next week. Application ZT-7 2020 filed by the city requesting a zone text change to create the Chesterfield overlay zone. And since Steve Pastrick, his name is popping up, I'm assuming that he's going to talk about this. Mr. Pastrick, are you on there?
I am, thank you. Sorry, just
Oh.
had to unmute myself there.
Okay.
This is an item we've discussed with the council several times as discussion items. And this ordinance has since come before the Planning Commission. Now it's to the City Council. There's 2 items that are really associated together here. You have first the ordinance change, which is the actual creation of the overlay zone in the ordinance. And then the second item that's on the agenda, the zone change, would apply the overlay zone within the Chesterfield neighborhood. And so the document that I have, hopefully, can you see the table I have up on my screen?
Yes.
Okay. And so on this table, it really highlights the differences between what's in the overlay zone and then what applies in the ordinance generally to new housing. And so I'll just briefly walk through the differences here. So when it comes to home orientation, meaning which way the home faces, the proposal in the overlay zone is that the homes would have to face the street. Whereas right now there's a provision in the code that allows for narrower lots to be side facing. And so it would, that side facing rule would be stricken from or struck out from the ordinance. The next section.
Steve?
Yes.
So does that allow shotgun homes, the ones that are just skinny and long, but the front door is a little bit on the side? Or is it the front door has to be on the front of that house?
So the way it's worded now is that the home or the front door would be facing the street.
Okay, but it can be a narrow house, really deep shotgun style.
Yes, it could be that. We have seen some homes in Chesterfield where they literally are, the front door is facing to the side because of the narrowness of the lot. And so this would require that they be facing the street. So the next section deals with the size of the homes. This part gets a little bit nuanced. And so you have in the overlay zone, you have a size for those lots that are zoned R16, which if you recall, the area closer to Redwood Road, further to the west is the R16. And then you have the area closer to the river that's zoned A. So there's 2 different standards there for new homes within Chesterfield. And you can see to the right how that compares with the current ordinance. Now in the current ordinance, there's a standard for existing lots, so lots that are already platted. And then there's a standard whenever you're doing a new subdivision, which is substantially higher. So you can see how those compare. And then the third line down is the comparison of house sizes without a basement. And so again, with the overlay zone, because you have much of Chesterfield that is impacted by the flood zone, there's not a larger home requirement for homes without a basement. Whereas in the ordinance generally, there is a larger requirement for homes that do not have a basement. So there's a significant difference. On the house size, it's slightly, or excuse me, house height, there's a minor difference there in that we're suggesting a 2-story maximum as opposed to 2.5 stories, where most of the homes in Chesterfield are single level. On materials, we're adding a couple of additional materials that could be used within the overlay, and that's stucco and foam-backed siding or vinyl siding. Also not requiring a minimum percentage of brick or stone. So individuals could still use brick or stone, it would just not be required. And again, the thought being that the vast majority of homes in Chesterfield do not have brick or stone. On the minimum garage size, requiring only a 2-car garage, which again, for new lots, the standard is 3-car. On the type of garage, if it's a narrower lot, then it would need to be either detached or it's a side-loaded attached garage. Whereas if it's a lot that meets the minimum standard where they have enough room to put a garage on the front, then it can still be a garage where the garage door is actually facing the street. Another difference would be on flag lots. And so that was a specific standard the council wanted to add, and that would be to prohibit flag lots within the overlay zone. On the offsite improvements, we would only require curb, gutter, and sidewalk on certain streets within Chesterfield, and then all other streets would be excluded. And so those would be streets where either there already exists a majority of curb, gutter, and sidewalk, for example, Leicester Street, or it would be streets where you have community facilities like the mosque or schools. And then finally, there are some minor differences in the architectural requirements, mainly since the home sizes would be smaller and brick and stone would not be required. There's some point differences in the point system. The final change that's not in this particular table, but is in the ordinance, would be an issue that the council raised at our last discussion on this topic, and that is requiring variation between homes so that you don't have all the homes looking, very similar. And so in the ordinance, and I will pull that up, and I'll go to the specific section here that falls in. So this is line number, beginning on line 114 of the ordinance that begins with the title design variation. So this portion of the code deals with when you have homes that are side by side, that there's a number of changes that need to be made from one home to the next so that you get some differences between the two homes. And so this is, while we do have a standard in the code right now for variation, this takes it up a couple of notches in requiring more variation between the homes. And that's a summary of the ordinance changes that are proposed.
So Steve, I'm kind of having a difficult time here with the only variations are like the amount of windows. They're not a totally different floor plan, a totally different look on the outside. I mean, maybe if you're gonna have 60 homes, 6 different plans.
So what I can just walk through this. So what's required in the way this is written now? So the first portion before you get to the A, B, and C, all of the features are required. So for example, the first thing is they have to vary either the number or the size of windows. Okay, so they have to have a different number of windows or a different size of windows. The second thing is they have to vary where the windows and doors are placed on the front of the house. The next is that there would be a difference in color on the entire front. The next is that how the garage is done would be different. So whether it's on one side or the other, or attached or detached, or front or side facing, those are all choices there. And then the placement of where they put things like a porch or a bay window or jogs in the foundation would have to be different, meaning where those are placed on the home would be different from its neighbor. So in addition to those things, so they would have to do all of those things. And then in addition, they'd have to choose one of the items below. And that is, you have the first choice is a single-story home versus a two-story home, so that's a pretty significant change. The other is that they changed the materials on at least half of the front. And then the third is that there's a different roof design. So you have, for example, one that's a hipped roof, and then the other is more of a gable roof. So it's in the opening paragraph, they have to do all of those features plus one of the ones at the bottom.
And then how many houses away can a like house be?
It would have to be 2 homes away.
All right, in a standard subdivision, is that what it is there, or are there? I mean, I look at my subdivision and they seem to be further away than that.
Okay.
So that's why I'm kind of trying to figure out if we need more variety, if it should be every 4th house before a repeat.
Yeah, we certainly could increase that to where you have to have 2 or 3 homes before you repeat the same kind of design. What this does, this just takes what's in the ordinance and increases the amount of variation that's required from one home to the next.
Yeah, I don't know about anybody else, but I would rather see at least 3 homes between a repeat. Just because if it's every other home and that's the only difference there is, to me, that's just too cookie cutter. We need more variety, I think.
Well, you could build 10 homes with only 2 plans, just every other home looks the same.
Yeah, and that, how do you tell somebody come to your house? Well, I'm the one on the left of the 2 that look identical.
But I think, one question I have is, we don't require this at all in any other subdivision, that the homes vary, is that right?
We do have standards that there be variation, but they're not as, the variation requirements are not as substantial as what we're proposing here.
And we don't say they have to be so many houses apart or anything?
Right, it's just that the homes that are next to each other have to have some variation, but there aren't as many requirements in the code currently.
I don't have a problem with expanding that to say 2 or 3 or whatever. I don't think there are very many places where someone can build a row of houses.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wonder about this. I know you guys brought up multiple times in the past, maybe a past year or a year and a half, about Chesterfield. But very much the council, they want to keep this one in place that's unique and special, try to keep the way we are right now in Chesterfield. I just wonder if that's our goal, what we want to accomplish here though. You know what I'm saying? And if we put more mass production in here, that's gonna destroy the whole things we are talking about.
Okay.
We want to keep this unique and special. It's only one place in our city, and we want to keep that way. And the council mentioned that multiple times in the past too.
Councilman June, I want to add a comment here on behalf of Steve. The staff is only bringing this overlay proposal back to the council, which I believe is the 3rd time we have now, as you've mentioned, at the council's request. If the council is not of one mind or cannot come to agreement on what these standards would be, we're more than happy to not have a new overlay adopted. So just want to make sure you're clear on that. The reason we're here is at your request. We are not repeatedly bringing this back for proposal.
And I think we brought it up multiple times. We mentioned about this place is we want to keep the unique and the special, try to keep the way we are right now, and that's what we're trying to do. And I think have done that, have talked about that.
if that's the case, then the council's opinion would be that we are in a good, stable place and the characteristics of the neighborhood is unique and satisfactory, then we're more than happy to not adopt the overlay. I would ask, however, that some direction be given to that effect so that we can quit bringing it back if that's the direction of the council.
Yeah, I got kicked out by the liberal media, but I'm back. So, you know, to Wayne's point, this is something that disappeared and came back, disappeared, came back. And I think that I'm at least one of those people who says, hey, what happened to the Chesterfield overlay zone? Let's bring that back. And I think, Tom, you're right. We like it the way that it is, but that's my issue is I want to preserve that. And I think that, you know, this isn't perfect. This isn't exactly what I maybe envisioned, but I think this is a good step towards preserving it and ensuring that whatever is built here in the future will fit in and complement what's already there. I think we ought to go forward with it. If it doesn't pass, then I guess that's the answer. If it does, then I guess that's the answer.
I would add that in the discussions, I mean, at least in my understanding of the discussions, that everyone was fairly on board with the general concept. And if we're now at the point where we're talking about, you know, can home designs repeat every 2 houses versus every 3? I mean, I'm okay with hashing out those details, but it seems like in all these talks, we've had a consensus that, yeah, this is a neighborhood that needs to be, the character of which, you know, needs to be preserved, et cetera. And I'm okay with that.
I think it's almost that we lose our momentum between times. It comes up and we're like, oh yeah, we ought to get that back on. Let's take a look at that. Maybe make this change, that change. And then, you know, when we see it again, we've not been thinking about it for a while. And I mean, I would anticipate that this goes forward. If there is a motion to amend, to change something about it, that can be dealt with. If there's a motion to deny, that could be dealt with. If there's a motion to approve, that could be dealt with. And then this will be out of the Planning Commission's hands and off of our agenda one way or another.
And as I see it, our next step on this is a public hearing.
Right.
And so let's get the public input that live in Chesterfield and see what they feel about it.
And it really doesn't, except for affecting them in the broad sense of what else might be built there in the future, it doesn't require anybody to change their house or their orientation of their house. Or, I mean, sometimes people get all worried that, what are we doing? What do I have to do to comply? Nobody that lives there has to do anything to comply.
Right. And if I may just add to that, that we did receive a number of phone calls, and that was really most of the questions we received were people asking questions like that, like, how does this affect me? And once they understood it, it's really more for new homes. They really didn't have concerns or issues. The main issue that I heard, and you saw there's an email in your packet, was that a few residents felt like there shouldn't be curb, gutter, or sidewalk anywhere in Chesterfield. And so, just as a reminder, you know, the code right now actually requires curb, gutter, and sidewalk on all streets in Chesterfield. This would only require them on certain streets. So it's taking it down a notch, so to speak. But there were a few residents that didn't want to have curb, gutter, or sidewalk on any streets.
So Steve, do you have that street plan sealed up as to where you want the sidewalks and where you do not want sidewalks?
Yeah, so I can pull that up. It's in the ordinance, and so I'll pull.
Okay, is it towards the end?
It is, and I'll
Okay.
share my screen here again and show where that's at.
Okay.
So it is so line 99. So
Thank you.
Improvement shall be installed along Crystal, Lester, Whitlock, Malvern, Parkway, Chatham. And then any new streets that are developed. So, if someone puts in a new subdivision in like in the R16 zone, then they would add curb gutter and sidewalk. But in the agricultural zone, they would not.
And the R16 is only if it's zoned that right now, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, the only issue I have is really separating the repeat of the homes. I think everything else is very well thought out. And if we have the list of streets, then I think that takes all the question out of it.
Steve, I have a question about Malvern Avenue right there. Crystal Avenue, Leicester Street, Whitlock Avenue, Parkway Avenue, and Jasmine Street. Those streets are real long streets. And I think it'll be okay with the improvement of the right of way. But the thing in Malvern Avenue is just small, is that's people want to build a house up to this ordinance pass, and they have to do the sidewalk, or what you want them to do.
Right. So the reason that Malvern was included, and this list came from Public Works, is that's the street that has the pedestrian overpass to Redwood Elementary. So the pedestrian overpass that goes over Redwood Road.
Uh-huh.
So if someone were to build a new home on Malvern Avenue, then they would be required to install the improvements.
The school there a long time ago. Mm-hmm.
True.
And not like yesterday.
Mayor, I believe your microphone is turned off.
No wonder you couldn't hear me. I think my wife would like to use that sometimes. Let's see, the homes seem awfully large for Chesterfield. One of the kind of unique features of Chesterfield is that you do have some small homes with big lots. And so I don't like the large minimum sizes here. I would like to see those reduced so that you can build a smaller home. And the other thing is that even though it's Chesterfield, I don't like vinyl siding. I'm okay adding the stucco, and it can be all stucco or whatever, but vinyl siding, no, that doesn't, I struggle with that a lot. Most of it, I guess I'm okay because I don't think it changes a whole lot and allows for keeping a lot of the same feel. One of the issues that we really haven't dealt with here is one of the challenges we have is that they want to subdivide properties, which does more to destroy the look and feel of Chesterfield than the kind of homes that we put on there. So I would actually like to see us do something about saying we want to preserve these larger lots, long skinny lots, whatever they are, and not turn them in. I guess that was covered somewhat by no flag lots, but I really like trying to keep those lot sizes a little bit bigger and, agricultural kind of stuff. So those are the three issues that I have. The minimum size, I think, is too large, using vinyl siding, and then we need to do something to preserve the size of lots, the unique lots that are there, and allow them to be subdivided. That's all.
Yeah, I like that idea. The lot, whatever they have right now, it's keep the way they have, and they can build one house on that lot. Don't chop it, divide in two lots, and build it two houses and make it more crunchy. I mean, more condensed.
Anyone else's comments on that?
I would agree with you on the vinyl siding. That
What
totally.
about home size?
So on the home size, I was confused. Do you want smaller minimums or larger minimums?
Smaller.
Yeah, I can. They're as small as I'm willing to go.
What do you think about wood siding, lap board, or, I mean, that's what a lot of houses have down there.
Now they have the hardy board that looks the same and would be fantastic to have.
I'd be okay with that, just not vinyl siding.
Body board, nice.
Okay. Any further comments on any of the items? I'm going to kind of try and get a sense where we are on that so that if need be, we could have some language drawn up for next week. Possible language. Not hearing any, then the issue on the individuality of homes and not having them closer than, was it 3 homes between?
Yes.
Okay. Is that seem reasonable? I'm comfortable with that. Anyone else?
Seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Having grown up in Kearns in the Hoffman homes, where they took the cookie cutter and just turned it a little bit each time, 3 homes in between would be great.
Okay.
If I could just maybe restate, so it's there between 2 homes, there would be at least 3 homes that are different between 2 homes that are the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you say that one more time, please, Steve?
So there would be at least 3 different homes between 2 homes that are the same.
Okay.
Okay. Then vinyl siding. See, I can't make motions, so I got to make sure that I have, if it's going to happen, I got to get some idea here.
I agree. I think the stucco would be fine, but I'm not really in the mood to go back to siding.
Yeah.
Is the main issue with the siding durability or longevity versus the other materials that have been stated, or is it an aesthetic thing, or I mean, what's the main hang up?
Yeah, that's the main hang up, and is the longevity. Vinyl siding is not as durable, and so it tends to get damaged more easily.
And people just don't seem to have the $20,000 or whatever to put up new siding when the old siding looks bad. And so then your whole neighborhood just kind of goes down really fast.
I'd be okay with that.
Okay. So it sounds like those two are okay. Next one I may have some problems with. For me, home size in Chesterfield has a great variety now. These minimums say the only additional homes you can build are 14,000 square feet or Rambler 2,100 square feet for 2-story. And I say, well, no, let's allow some more variation on that and allow for smaller. And I'm not saying 900 square feet, but I'm thinking that a little bit smaller, and that allows some people to have a smaller home, get a bigger piece of property, still make it and stay within the concept, the kind of the feel of Chesterfield. Am I the only one feels that way, or?
How small would you go, Mayor?
Well, I'm somewhat open. I would not go less than 1,000 square feet. But I don't know, I would say 1,150 square feet for a Rambler. How's that?
My policy point of view on this whole overlay is to make things, keep it unique, make it easier, not require basements, not require curb and gutter. I mean, make it, and I think allowing Chesterfield to be what Chesterfield has been, which does include small homes, and I mean, I would be okay with that generally. Where I'm going to fight you is on the next point, though.
The size?
Yeah, whether they no subdividing lots or.
Oh,
I mean, I think the flag lots, that was important. But as far as, I mean, if you have an acre of agricultural land, you can already build 2 houses there. If you have, you know, some big lot, I think you could subdivide it where they're equal with the same frontage and build another house there. I don't think that I would have a problem with that. I don't want to be that imposing on the neighborhood, but I am opposed to the flag lots, cutting it all up.
yeah.
My objection to the smaller homes is they're starter homes. They're not long-term homes. I think Chesterfield is more of a, you move in, you stay. I think if a 1,400 square foot Rambler is the smallest because you don't have a basement, I think that's a home that you could actually live in forever and not be needing to upgrade or add on. I think you go smaller than that and it just becomes too much turnover.
Maybe gonna be a.
Well, oh, go ahead, Tom, and then I'll respond to that too.
Mayor, I like your idea, but I think it's gonna be big problem if we have a small houses there. Because high turnover and other things gonna be crime rate gonna be high, and other things will cause a problem in the area. I think I go with the steep bill over there about no subdivision. I mean, no subdivide lots. Keep Chesterfield the way they are. You know, even they have a big lot and one house, still fine. Don't subdivide that.
You know, if you made the smaller homes, you would probably have fewer families living in them. Conceptually, when you take a 1,800 square foot home and you put 4 families in it, it's a pretty small living space. Why not let them do smaller ones there, have fewer families in it, fewer cars on the street, and actually you do have families who stay in those smaller homes and who stay there permanently. And that's also true here. Are they also used for rentals? Yeah, nothing we can do about that. I just want to see some flexibility there, or more flexibility than what this proposes. And although I'd love to do the no subdividing of property. I can tell I'll lose that battle already. So I
So Mayor,
probably won't say any more on that.
so one suggestion, maybe if we put 1,400 square foot average if it's a development, but 1,200 if it's just an individual home. Because then you could have some 16s, some 12s, but average out 1,400 over the whole subdivision.
I'm pondering that, and I'm thinking I might be okay with that. Okay,
I think we just stick with the plan that we have, that Patrick did presented to us, and we can go from there, because we changed here and there, and that will unfair for other places in our city. Why we bend the rule over here and we not bend the rule over there? And
no, it's not bending a rule. It's setting standards by neighborhood. And even in some cities, they have areas that are zoned for, 1 acre lots or half acre lots. And then in other areas, they have smaller subdivisions. I don't think there's any legal reason that we couldn't do that. Is that correct, Steve Pastrick?
Right, we were able to have standards specific to a neighborhood.
Yeah, okay.
So we,
I think Councilwoman Lang's suggestion is, it's not what I had hoped, but I can live with that. I kind of like that.
I'm not opposed to it either. I think it's a reasonable proposal.
So would we say a subdivision of 2 or more, or where do we draw the line there?
I think that sounds fine.
Okay, I can.
Okay.
Because I do agree that would bring in the uniqueness and kind of stay with what's there, but bring some larger to and build that area up a little bit.
Okay. Sounds like we have identified those. Mr. Pastrick, did you take note on those?
Yes, sir.
Because there's a number of changes there, it might be helpful if we had that in writing to make it clear, because trying to state 4 different changes, I just don't want to have it create a problem afterwards.
Sure.
And it sounds like those were pretty straightforward. Is that okay?
Yes, and I heard that there were 3 changes where there was consensus. So there was the no vinyl, the average home size, and then the variation, 3 homes variation. Those are the 3 I heard consensus on.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say consensus. I would say enough that it seems like it's likely to pass.
Yes.
And it seems likely that the limitation on subdividing properties would not pass. So let's not do that one. Okay. Anything further there? Okay. Then we'll go this next one just so that we officially cover it. Application Z-8 2020. And this is to add to the Chesterfield overlay zone. What was the reason behind adding that? Is it just to make sure we covered all the area, or?
All right, so the first item actually adds the text of the overlay zone to the ordinance. This next item actually applies the overlay zone to the properties.
Oh, okay.
And also, what is that right here, Steve? 2420 South and 2920 South. I did got information from you because I was ill and didn't have a chance to look at it. So can you elaborate it for me a little bit, Steve?
Yeah. What was added?
So I'll, hopefully you can see the map here on my screen. So everything that's shaded in gray would be properties that are included in the or proposed to be included in the overlay zone. All of these properties are either zoned R16 or A for the agricultural zone. All the other zones were excluded. So for example, along Redwood Road, you have C2 zoning. And so those properties were excluded. You have a few properties in this area that were zoned R2 for a duplex zoning. Those were left out. But everything else that's again within the R16 or A zone would be included.
So this just makes it consistent across all of that.
Correct.
Okay.
You brought up about a couple of things about alongside Redwood Road. Couple of lots right alongside with the Redwood Road on the east side. One is nearby the Baptist church, and then on the second one nearby the tracks. They have they selling grass sale in the summertime, and they cannot build a strip mall for right now because they are under 1 acre lot, and maybe that's the problem. Is there any way, because 2017 is a 20,000 square feet, you can build a shopping center, right? But now you have to be 1 acre lot, and 43,000 square feet, you can build a shopping center. So those 3 lots, right, alongside with the Redwood Road, they got stuck and they cannot do anything about it. I think that's a big problem. And we cannot keep those vacant or empty for a long time. That's not good. Is there any exception for them? Because I have a couple land owners, they call me, they ask me about that.
So right now the overlay zone is really tailored to or geared toward residential property. And so that's why we left out the C2 zoning. Really the standards that are in the overlay zone are geared towards homes, right? The house size, materials, design. And so that's why we left the commercial properties out, because the standards really just don't apply to commercial properties. So if the council were interested in relaxing that standard for shopping centers, my suggestion would be to do that outside of this process.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. I just want to brought it up to you.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, let's see. Then we go to ordinances, ordinance 20-49, amend our code to increase stormwater utility fees. This is, I don't know if this needs a lot of explanation. We had talked about it before. The only question I raise perhaps is there any interest in phasing this in over several years? Or do you just want to do it one fell sweep? And if we do it all at once now, is $2 enough? Because we likely will not visit it again for quite a few years if we follow history.
I'm trying to remember, wasn't the proposal $5 and we said, no, let's not do $5, let's do $6 or? seemed like in our discussion, we had decided to bump it up because we don't want to visit it very often. Looking at what other cities charge, I think 6 is pretty reasonable. And then as far as phasing it in over time, I don't know that it's, I mean, we could, but I don't know that that really
Well,
helps.
if we phased it in over 3 years, the concept would be to raise it $1 each year. I know some people have said, hey, what are you spending it on? You're not taking care of things now. And we say, well, the reason we're not taking care of it, if you think we aren't, is because we're spending all the money we have on it. And it has to go for that. That's a separate fund.
Right.
And Russ, you correct me here if I'm wrong, but all that money is collected into a single fund, and it's limited as to what it can be used for, to storm drain related items, whether it's overhead, whether it's digging the trenches, whether it's replacing the pipe, whatever.
That's correct.
So Russ, can it be used for a new road?
No, we have used stormwater utility funds for replacing storm drains before we reconstruct roads, but it cannot be used to build roads.
Okay. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I had that we used some money here for out by the west-north quadrant. One of the main roads going in or out of there.
Yeah, we often combine money from several different funds to build a project, but we are only paying for the storm drainage portion of it with the utility funds,
Okay.
the stormwater utility.
Thank you.
All right, so it all falls into the same proposal. We have Class C road funds we get from UDOT or the federal government, our stormwater funds, but the stormwater is to build the stormwater, the drainage system, and then, I mean, it's all compartmentalized out, right?
Right, that's correct.
In fact, I think that's a state requirement, isn't it? According to state code.
Yes.
So Mary, you're proposing we go up to $7, $1 a year for 3 years, and then that's
How
where
does
we
it
end.
3 years
Uh-huh.
equals $7?
Yes. I know that's unusual coming from me, but you know, at some point in the future, the issue of storm water and the drainage system will receive a shock if we ever have to treat water before we dump it back into the ecosystem, meaning the Jordan River, the Great Salt Lake. And those are not immediate things to happen, but they are somewhere down in the future that will happen. And I would like to see us, you know, have a good system in place before we also have to do that.
I think if we have to do that, $7 isn't going to be sufficient. But
Oh, no, it won't even be close. We would, if you have to build a stormwater treatment plant, you're talking tens of millions of dollars. No, I said tens, plural.
So I have a question for Russ. I'm looking at the long-term plan for the schedule between the $1 million a year increase or the 2.5. And it only adds one more project to the 2021 list. Is that because we wouldn't build up enough? And then in 22, 23, 24, all of those funds would be to do the projects listed here?
Right. So, so Dan Johnson, our city engineer, went through our list of projects and tried to allocate them, you know, with the available funding. So there will be some years in there where we wouldn't spend all the money, but there wasn't enough money to build the next project or another project that was, you know, a high priority. So we just saved that money to the following year. So, there's a little bit of an imbalance there, but that's the reason why.
Okay. So a $2 increase would get you how much a year?
So the $2 increase would increase our current program from $1 million in CIP improvements every year to 2.5. So it's basically an increase of $1.5 million, which we're proposing to allocate all of that to new capital projects.
Okay, and if we did the $7 to begin with, that would give you more than that. Would you even be able to do all the projects that much money would bring in, or would you be overwhelmed?
Well, with our current staff, we'd be overwhelmed. I mean, even with the $1.5 million, we either have to hire additional staff or hire outside consultants, because we've been, geared towards that $1 million every year, and that's, the staffing level that we're at now.
And the main problem would be the engineering and then sending it out to bid?
Yeah, preparing the engineering and the construction management and all of that combined, yes.
Okay.
That's perhaps a benefit of phasing it in over several years to give you time to work into that.
Yeah, Russ, maybe you make a proposal, or maybe just list out something. If you have that money, what are you going to do for, number of years? For the next years or something like that?
So in your packet, there's two proposals. One that shows what we could do with the $1 million that we currently have for capital improvements. And that leaves us short. So we're not able to ever complete all of the projects. We took it out to 2050, and, with a 4% annual cost increases, which is not an unreasonable number. We were $58 million lacking to complete all the projects that we currently know of. So if we go to $6, we can complete all those projects, by 2043. So that, that's still a long ways out, but it provides, a funding source that would eventually get to all of them. Now, everything isn't going to fail immediately either. So, all of this work does not have to be done in the next 5 years, but we need to have a significant enough funding or revenue source that we can, anticipate completing all this work in 20 or 30 years. So so those two lists show you all the different projects that are anticipated.
So I'm comfortable with raising it the $2 now, and then having Russ bring it back in a year or 2 years and say, yes, this was successful. Our new CIP plan is to do it a little faster. Let's up it another $2. But I would rather see the projects that are going to be done and the planning, and not just pick $6 out of the air and not have them be able to use that money every year to do the improvements they need to. So I would still be good with adding another $2 next year if this is something they can accomplish every year to get these extra jobs done. So I think the $2 right now sounds appropriate, and then just do that and just keep it on the front burner that Russ brings this back with a report every year saying either I need more, or we're a little overwhelmed with even this much. Give us another year to get this under our belt, and then let's raise another $2 and another $2 going off this list he's provided. I think just raising it to pull a number out doesn't make sense to me, isn't reasonable.
I'm okay with that.
So Russ, did you say these projects span out to 2043?
Yes.
And do we have your commitment to see that through, that you'll personally take care of all of these things?
I wasn't going to say that, but I probably won't be here.
Dan or somebody will be here. There's young ones around that can remember this.
Certainly. So, one thing I might just mention, so, a $2 increase for residents, for single-family residents per month, that may not seem like a large number. But we do have some very large customers, entities that own lots of property in West Valley City that you can probably figure out who they are. The Granite School District, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they pay a lot of money in stormwater utility fees. I mean, it's relatively a lot. I mean, in the big scheme of things, those two entities own lots of property and they pay lots of utility bills. But, that might be something to consider as we go forward. One thing I should also mention is we're also proposing with this $2 increase, so it's essentially a 50% increase, that we also adjust our the definition of one equivalent residential unit and increase the square footage that's equal to 1 ERU. So what that does is it reduces the fee on commercial properties. So instead of getting a 50% increase, they would get a 34% increase. So that softens the blow a little bit for those commercial entities and the larger customers. So that, that's included in what you have before you. So it's changing the consolidated fee schedule and also changing that definition in the stormwater in the stormwater utility ordinance.
Because is the average on about a 1.5 acre commercial lot around $60? And so that would increase them by $30 if we didn't do that adjustment.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be a big impact on commercial. I can understand that.
Just a couple of comments I would add to that. The stormwater proposal, as far as number of projects, what you decide to do in a year is decided, I think, by several things. One, how much money you have, and two, what the priority is for those projects. If the money changes, you add more projects. If you have a project that becomes a higher priority, either through failure or because you're replacing a road or something, that would move up. But it's not like there'll be different projects. I mean, the list is there, and even during a single year, that could change if, either of those items changed. And the issue of the reason I proposed the phase in concept was simply to allow more even on the commercial side, for them to build that into budgets and not have that all occur at one time. And the other advantage of the phased in approach is you deal with it once. My intent was by going the extra $1 that you would not come back and visit that again in the near future. Certainly at some point in the future, this will have to be revisited, simply as, the city grows and as things change. But I'm okay if we decide not to phase it in. I will still support the $2 fee because we are taking care of what is needed for our residents. Stormwater, if it's not taken care of, creates serious problems. And it has caused flooding. Here in my own neighborhood, that is about little over 20 years old, we had a stormwater problem and flooding occurred at a residence, causing significant damage. That was ultimately corrected, and we don't have that problem anymore, but the water drained down to a certain point in the subdivision, and certain storms exceeded the capacity of the stormwater and caused flooding and thousands of dollars of damage. So, we can look at it in any way you want. What I'm proposing does not ultimately change the amount of money that someone might pay, because ultimately we have to pay for these things. We either pay for them now or we pay for them later. So I'm fine either way. That's probably enough discussion. So unless someone has a specific proposal other than what's been commented, sounds like not. So let's move on to the next item on our agenda. Let's see. Resolution 20-177, approve the purchase of variable speed water pump station for Stonebridge Golf Course. And it looks like Nancy Day is online and ready to talk about this.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's good to see all of you. So as you'll see in the issue paper, this is for the variable speed water pump station at Stonebridge Golf Course. The pump station is probably the most important piece of equipment on the golf course. If you don't have a irrigation system that is functional and working, then you don't have turf or any of the other materials out there that you need. So the system is the original. So it's well over 20 years old. And it has been, the staff has done a great job in trying to repair it and make it work over the years, but especially the last few years, it's gone down pretty rapidly. Things that you can see in the issue paper, the excessive rusting, they can't, there's several areas they can't even go in and continue to do welding repairs on, just because it's so bad. The filters, the main manifold, even the metal flooring that's deteriorating from the rust, that flooring holds 2 1,000-pound pumps. And that's severely, in compromise right there. And then of course the electronics and computer. I know that Matt recently has had several companies out to try to do some work, and the systems are so old and outdated that they can't hook up their sensors to be able to diagnose some of the problems that need repair. So all in all, it's lived its life and then some, and we need to get a new system. So we did RFP this, and as you can see, there were 4 proposals that were submitted. Flowtech is the lowest bidder that came out, and that is actually who we have selected. And we are recommending approval of this resolution so that we can get that replaced before the spring season hits.
Okay, I would note that it's $274,000 from the general fund balance. Obviously, given the dynamics of the revenue picture with the city this year, although it wasn't as bad as we anticipated, there probably will not be that money anywhere else other than in fund balance.
Yes,
but timing is everything. So when you approve this, council, I assume you will, I don't know, we'll find out next week, recognize that it will come from the fund balance.
And with that, Mayor, could we just get a comment from either Mr. Pyle or Mr. Welch as to the health of our fund balance currently?
Certainly.
Thanks, Mayor and Steve.
Mr. Pyle,
Yeah.
I know we can't hear you.
Sorry, was close to the microphone again. Here, I'll move over. Is that better?
A little bit.
Okay, I'll move even closer. I'm still trying to adjust this system a little bit. So if I look funny in the picture, it's because I'm frightened by the microphone. So I had discussions at length with Nancy as to whether or not there was some other method within the golf funds.
I'd rather hear you.
What's that, Mayor?
It's hard to hear.
Is anyone else having a problem where they are missing part of what?
Yes, yeah, it's hard to
Yeah.
hear.
How's this?
It's a lot better. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I might have something blocking the
Apparently,
microphone.
we have a bad connection.
How about now? Is that any better?
Okay, much better, much better.
Okay. All right. So I'll try to make the comment short. I mean, the long and the short of it is we tried to find a source out within the golf funds. That didn't work. We do have a healthy fund balance that can cover this. And really, honestly, if we could wait any longer, I would have preferred to have done that till next year anyway. But as the mayor said, this is kind of a matter of timing. If this thing, which has been nursed along for a number of years, were to break, it could literally stop golf course operations next spring, which would cost us a lot more than $250,000. So hence the proposal.
Thank you.
Not hearing any further questions or comments. Then, thank you. We'll go next to Resolution 20-178. Accept a storm drain easement and release a storm water drainage easement. This fairly routine. This is over in, I can't remember the name of the subdivision. They're south of 4100 South, east of 4800 West. Any questions on this? Not hearing any, then we'll go to communications. Park needs assessment and planning report.
That's me.
Yeah.
So, hi again. I wondered why I was still up. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me do that. I apologize. All right. Can you all see that PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay,
Good stuff.
wonderful. So yes, you've heard me talk about this a couple times over the last year, that we were working on this needs assessment and planning report, citywide survey, and trying to really get feedback from our citizens. So this is really a collection of the citizen and community data and opinions, and then analysis of that data. We were grateful to be able to collaborate and really have Utah State University do this for us. Professor Nate Trontbein and Professor Jones, they were the key authors in this instrument and the whole process to pull it together. Professor Trontbein actually has done these types of assessments across the country. And now that he's with Utah State, it was perfect timing for us to be able to pull them on. They're both faculty members in the Recreation Administration program up at USU, which is in the Department of Kinesiology and Health Science. So the information you're going to see here is information that they were able to pull together for us that we can use as we plan and master plan and move forward. So a little bit on the process. There's the research and public engagement that was performed in this assessment. First of all, they got background and information, gathered as much as they could on what we're providing, what we see as being important within our Parks and Recreation Department for our city. They also came down to West Valley, did facility tours, took a look around at what we've got. And then they jumped into the community involvement. They had some individual one-on-one meetings. These were with various stakeholders, such as ecclesiastical leaders, minority group leaders, just leaders from different community perspectives. And so they held some of those one-on-ones. They also did approximately 9 focus groups during this time. I believe it was a little more, but the last 1 or 2 had to be canceled because that was at the beginning of COVID. And so we needed to cancel those focus groups, but they did get a lot of good information from the ones that they performed prior to that. Open community forums, so kind of public meetings that were spread out. Some were done at the cultural center, some at the fitness center. We tried to spread those out a little bit within the city. And then finally, there was also a citywide online household survey that was done. We worked, or they worked with Qualtrics for the random sample. And then information was sent out to the various stakeholders through, and also through social media, through the website with a link to the survey. We sent out postcards, quite a few postcards, and we made sure, we were working with the data center, we made sure that 25% were sent to each of the districts within our city so that we had good coverage across the city. We really wanted to get feedback from everybody on this. And through this process with the survey, 1,038 surveys were completed, which we felt very good about. That's a good number. There were just under 1,100 that were started, but this was not a short survey. This was probably a 10-minute survey. So it wasn't one of those quick and easy 3-question things you get sometimes from businesses. We really wanted to know what people thought, and I felt like we got some really good information from that. So some of the observations that Utah State was able to pull from the focus groups and the forums and the individual meetings, the consensus is that West Valley City has committed citizens that are really interested in what their public recreation is about in West Valley City. They're committed, they're interested in that. West Valley City is fortunate to have an outstanding community center that serves young and old. In this case, they were talking about the Family Fitness Center. West Valley City residents value their open space, natural areas, and trails. This was really, like throughout the process, this came up a lot, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the findings as well. Next, West Valley City residents have overall level of satisfaction with the breadth of what the parks and recreation facilities are. In some areas, they want to see more, but their level of satisfaction is really pretty good there. And then we did see through these groups and some through the survey as well, with a few comments here or there, that there are some participants that were concerned with the maintenance of the parks and also the upkeep of the parks, as well as the safety because of nefarious activities in the park. So drug use or people loitering, a perception with teens that are hanging out in the evening hours, that kind of thing, making them feel uncomfortable. One person commented about dogs that are running off leash. And so some of these individuals that brought those up wanted to see things such as maybe park patrols that could be instigated in some of those parks. So let's go into some of the demographics. First, they did in the survey, they did see and commented on a significant personal, family, and community benefit from parks and recreation facilities and programs. So that was really good to see that they value that and they see the benefit of that. So of the respondents, some of the demographics, the median age was 40. And I'd like to say that most of the numbers that you're going to see through here are pretty standard. I asked Professor Tropvine about that, and he said that it's typical. We're really typical of what they see when they do these types of assessments, and so there's nothing that's blaring here. But 75% female, 69% were employed full time. 29% of the respondents had some college education. 24% of the respondents had a 4-year college degree. 66% had children. They were households with children. And then the last two, 73% white, and there's more stats and numbers too. These are kind of the higher percentages. 73% were white population, 14% Hispanic and Latino. And this was one of the questions that I had asked was, man, you know, we sent this out to all the districts, to all the different demographics, and I thought we might see a little bit more of a breakdown here. And was told that even in some of the larger cities, they've sent it out maybe even an additional time to try to get more respondents from certain demographics, and they don't see a lot of improvement. Again, our responses from the minority population were actually better than some of the other survey instruments that they have seen. So that's who filled it out. 84% used West Valley City Parks Recreation Facility. That could include a park or the fitness center or the Harmon Senior Recreation Center or the golf courses. 84% used one of those at least in the last 12 months. 44% participated in a program. Over 60% said that they don't visit or use the facilities or programs as much as they would like. 70% of that is because of lack of time. They don't have, it's work, other obligations. They just don't have enough time to use them as much as they would like. And I know one of the things that we've done the last number of years at the fitness center is try to offer programs that will fit into that a little bit. And because we knew that might be a problem. For example, all of the fitness classes that used to be an hour long, now there's some that are offered for 30 minutes. You know, it's 15 minutes on a bike, 15 minutes yoga, or other combinations for the people that are really rushed. Or instead of doing leagues, you know, an adult basketball league or a youth league that goes for 6 weeks, that might be a hard commitment. So you're seeing more tournaments, those types of things. So that hopefully helps with that. And we're continuing to look at avenues and different things we can do. 35% of the respondents said it was just too expensive. So on that one, I would assume they're either talking about the golf courses or the family fitness center with that. 54% of use neighborhood parks either frequently or regularly on that. Areas that needed most improvements, and we saw this kind of throughout, there's a theme there, are the trails, greenways, and then the playgrounds themselves, updating those. Social media use, this probably you're all can see this as, you know, it wasn't a surprise to you, but 74% Facebook. You know, there's a lot of people on Facebook, 50% YouTube, and then it shows a little bit later, I think it was Instagram was the next one in line at 45%. So those are the top social media sites that we really want to target with information and get things out there for people. Some of the comments led to the indoor facility desires that people would like to see. 38% said teen or youth centers. Another 38%, or maybe the same, I don't know, but 38% of the respondents talked about an indoor performing arts center. And then 30% just want more gym space. One thing that was really good to see in this is that West Valley City Parks and Rec was known for its high quality youth recreation and sport programs that really serve the whole community. So that was good to see. Then we asked a couple funding questions. On this, 72% believe that a portion of property tax should be used to offset the cost to build and maintain Parks Recreation facility. So that's good. That's what we're doing, right? 57%, and actually I'd like to say on that, we're actually kind of towards the high end. Typically what they see is that falls somewhere between 50 and 80%. So we're kind of to the high end on that. 57%, this is also a bit on the high end as well, which is good, believe that a portion of property taxes should be used to run recreation programs and activities. By far, the majority of our recreation programs and activities are 100% funded by user fees, with the exception of a few that we do in the parks or a few special events that we do. But that's good to see as well. Then we gave everybody $100 hypothetically, and we gave them a list that you can see there on where they would spend that money if they had the opportunity to do that. Other was where they could put, you know, some of the other things they were interested in. Parks and open space was top on that, as is trails and greenways. So we're talking 47% is really, they're really interested in that, as I alluded to at the beginning. $16 towards the indoor recreation facilities, another 15 towards the programming. The 11, that's things like splash pads were big, dog parks were big, getting new playgrounds, fishing ponds, an urban fishery, that kind of thing. You can kind of see a few of the areas that were mentioned in that as well. And I will note, if any of you did your math and you added this up, that did not come to $100. So it's a little bit lower because not everybody added it up correctly. And it should have done it for them, but for some reason it didn't work. And so basically the mean was taken from all the respondents, and that's what we have there. So moving right along, we're going to jump into a few of the findings and recommendations that we received from Utah State based off of all of this. The first is to improve and increase natural areas, trails, and nature-based programming. Again, 45% feel that the nature-based programming is important, but they don't feel like there's enough of it. It's either unavailable or it's just not quite sufficient for what they would like to see. And some of the things we could do is look in regards to programming of what we do have, partner with clubs. These can be bird watching clubs, environmental groups or clubs. Partner with Tracy Aviary. We've talked with them as they opened their new facility on the Jordan River on 33rd South. That's not in West Valley City, but they're interested in working with us, and other schools, things like that. The Wetland Park area, which is the 80 acres where the park shop is located, that is a stormwater area, but it lends itself to becoming a very good nature area and wetland area for our residents to be able to use. So that's why that's on there. Outdoor adventure programs was another one. Over 37% want some outdoor adventure based programming that we can do. We've had some field trips in the past where we've taken people up to the Wasatch or in different areas like that. So we're trying to develop and see what different things we can do with that. We've done that for several years now with our with individuals with different, with disabilities, to go snowshoeing, things like that. And it's been a very successful. So we want to open that up a little bit more. Develop more outdoor clubs, kind of as I mentioned above, but increase the climbing program. We have some groups that will teach them in the Rockwall at the fitness center and then take them out and do some climbing. And we were moving right along with that till COVID hit. So we're going to continue to move forward with that. And then of course, add other programming, kayaking, canoeing. We're so close to the Great Salt Lake, we can do some sailing. The urban fishery that a lot of people wanted to see. We just need to have some, an area that's got good water that we can work and partner with the state department, and they will assist us in planting the fish and doing some of that as well. And then expanding natural areas. So there was a lot of interest in expanding these, as I'd mentioned, and this can include the redesign of some of our larger existing parks in a way that lends itself to more natural areas, or just new park design standards, especially as we're able to build some larger parks and do more with that. Again, the wetland park development. And then we have a trail map, which I'm only going to show you very, very briefly. Are you able to see that map now? Did that not switch over? Oh, hold on, let me. Did that work?
There it is.
Okay, so this is something that you're going to see on the website under parks and trails. This is something, there's still a few things we need to work with, but it's through ArcGIS. And this information, as you can see, gives you a little bit of information on how to use it. You can have different backgrounds for that and so on. And so all I want to show you is you can see our parks that are outlined in the dark green, and there actually is a legend there so that people understand. And so it shows like the trails, for example, if they're solid, they're already done. If they're dotted or dashed, they're not quite done yet. but they're proposed. So if we go over here, for example, and click on that park, it's Woodledge Park, it will give some information, attachments, there'll be pictures there, and then you can zoom in closer to that park if you want. But the other cool thing about this is I can measure, I can come over here to the ruler, and if I go to this middle one, it's in miles. So I can say, I want to see how far it is from Woodledge Park over to 5600 West, and it's 0.55 miles. And I can do that in any area really in the city. It doesn't even have to be on one of those trails necessarily. So this is something, and I'll go back to the presentation, but this is something you can kind of play with, and we're going to keep updating it and doing things there. So let me get back to the presentation. So hopefully you see that now again. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the next one is increase the maintenance and upkeep of the neighborhood parks and playgrounds. A lot of people use the neighborhood parks. They use obviously the larger ones, the city park, Centennial, but a lot of people really did enjoy using their neighborhood parks. As you can see, 54% regularly or frequently. They did mention they want to see more of the splash pads or water features. A lot of people want to see that, which is not surprising, and it's something we've looked at. There's more of a cost associated with that, but so safety concerns, again, 25% said that they would visit more, but they're a little bit concerned about some of the activities that I mentioned earlier in there. Some of the things we can do, some new park standards in regards to visibility. We've already been doing that for a while. Lighting, increased lighting. We're looking at solar lights, maybe even some additional cameras in certain areas. Redesigning existing parks again. Are there ways that we can make people feel more safe in those, and the potential of adding park patrols? General maintenance and upkeep. They would like to see a little bit more maintenance and upkeep, and this is nothing new to any of you on the council or mayor. Wanting to see the parks get taken up to the next level, and you know what we could do to help with that. A part of that, of course, always kind of comes down to the dollar, right? You know, as you are very well aware, our guys in park maintenance take care of more acreage than other cities. And so it makes it a little bit more of a challenge. But we are analyzing the current operations and have been doing that to consider what changes in direction we might be able to do, maybe potentially increase contractor use in certain areas. And then of course, continue with playground replacements. At the Peachwood Park that we just did recently, just so many people have enjoyed that and have asked for more of that in their neighborhoods as well. And that was one, as you recall, was matching. We got a program mod for half, and the other half was paid for by a grant. So that was really, really nice on that. All right. The next one is to update and renovate the Family Fitness Center and provide better access to the outdoor swimming pool. I will say that we did not, when this was being done, we had not acquired the outdoor swimming pool out at Centennial yet. So as people were responding to this, they didn't know that would be something that would fall under West Valley City, but a lot of people asked about that. More than 40% of the respondents use the fitness center regularly or frequently. We're still, again, pre-COVID, COVID's going to skew these numbers a little bit. But we're still seeing about 1,500 average visitors daily, not including the people coming for programs or the spectators for those programs. One of the things we can do is to communicate less busy times. We've tried to do that with the swimming pool, with lap swimmers, for example. You know, a lot of people want to come at the same time, and so it's very, very busy. So we tried to communicate, here's some times where it's not as busy if you can come then. So we're thinking that would be something to do for the rest of the facility as well. Access to the outdoor swimming pool was a big one. So now we have acquired that. We are putting together a discounted package for fitness center members. As you recall, when we acquired that, there was going to be a small fee tacked on to the monthly fees that our members pay. For the first 2 years, we're going to reduce that slightly if people sign up by the end of December. It's a little tough right now while COVID's going on. So we'll be working with some different things that we can do there. Another thing that we can do, which has been spoken about before, was to acquire the Redwood Multipurpose Center. That will help with the overcrowdedness at the fitness center, not just from the general drop-in users, member users, but also from the programming. We'll be able to draw more there and actually be able to provide more for those that live on the east side of the city. And then safety came up as well. And a lot of that comes from theft. And so we felt like we could really educate people on that, the safety campaign, really for the entire department, of, make sure you lock your items up in the lockers. We do that anyway, but to enhance it in some way. We added some of the wallet key cell phone lockers where they can change the code on it. We did that. So there's some things there that we can do. And we have installed additional cameras as well. The increased visibility of staff is just to keep the staff moving around through the facility more. The next one was a big hit, was to build multiple dog parks throughout the city. It was one of the most talked about, over 42%, as far as the city just not having enough. Citizens are driving to other communities to visit the dog parks. It was the most frequently mentioned in other categories on some of the open-ended type questions where they can fill that in, and also highest priority in open-ended sections. So we do have a couple that are coming into the city at Lodestone. Salt Lake County will be building that, and possibly the Magna Regional Park, which is not in our city, but it's in close proximity. We do not know at this time when those will be done. It's a matter of prioritization and funding on behalf of the county. But this is definitely a reoccurring theme. And we've had communication over the last few years with our police department to maybe have an area that wouldn't be used by the public, but that would be could be developed at the same time for a canine training area for them. There's also land and opportunities along the Mountain View corridor. There's some small parcels of land. We might be able to put some, we have pocket parks, maybe pocket dog parks. There's different things that we want to see happen there. And then the last two, which are really pretty short and sweet here, is just developing a better communication plan, working with Sam's department on this, and really trying to come up with more of a plan to let people know what's going on. One of the things that we found in the comments and in some of the responses was that people were saying, we wish we had this in our city. And we're scratching our head because we're like, oh, we have that. We have not done our job by communicating well enough to the community what they have in the parks and recreation. And so we want to do a better job of that. We want to increase our social media output and our cross-marketing efforts. Some of the other methods we've used have been direct mail, door knockers, different things like that, reaching out to new homeowners. We want to do more of that and be more efficient with that. The schools have always been, for at least the families that have children, have always been really good, but they switched to an email system a number of years ago called Peach Jar, and it just isn't quite as effective as it used to be. So there's definitely some challenges and some things that we need to do better as a department. And then finally, the interest from focus groups was they want to be more actively involved. These groups really wanted to be engaged more in what we're doing with parks and recreation in the city. And so we will be creating a department advisory board and continue doing some of these community forums once we get past COVID, be able to do more of that in the different districts, and then continue neighborhood involvement and with the park design and renovations, park naming. We've done that with our last couple parks, and work with our third-party sports teams. So I kind of went through that pretty quick, but I hope you got the gist of that. Those are really the primary points. Are there any questions or anything I can answer?
I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a couple of comments. First of all, thank you for this comprehensive report. And as I've said before, I support parks. I think that this is one thing where we really can make a difference for our neighborhoods, for our residents, making West Valley a nice place to live and a nice place to visit, bring your grandkids, whatever. And then my other comment would be, Nancy, I can't tell you how nice it is to have a parks director that is excited about parks.
Thank you.
Hearing no further comments, we'll move along. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate your information. Take a little bit of time to digest some of that. COVID-19 updates next on our agenda. Wayne and I were talking, and I think I will suggest that report that comes, maybe not doing it, certainly not weekly. Most of the information there is on the county website. In fact, they actually have a lot more information on the county website, but it mostly pertains to the whole county, but then it is broken down by zip code. And I don't know, I mean, this is going to go on for months and months. How does the council feel if we didn't do that report or only did it monthly? Would that be sufficient?
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of, this is going back in time, but in the late 70s, we had the Iran hostage conflict, and they came on the news and said, we're going to give you this report every night until this is cleared up. And after 6 or 8 months, they stopped because it was just the same all the time. I think that it's fine to discontinue the report and not have it calendars, except what I would like to know is if there is something of, city specific that, oh my gosh, we just had the Parks Department wiped out, or we just had administrations all on leave or something, anything that we need to know about in that regard, or something that we could help with or promote or make a policy decision for. I don't think just hearing the numbers and everything is, I mean, we've kind of gone beyond that, I think.
So it's my understanding, oh, sorry, Mayor.
No, go ahead.
It was my understanding that this report was being created weekly anyway. So I would personally like to keep receiving it. It is nice to be able to tell people in my district how many new cases, and it kind of makes them pause and really think about it when I can quote, well, we had this many new cases in our district this week. So for me, it's been helpful, and I would like to still get it.
So I think the first part of that is it being created anyway? If it is, I'd like to have it shared. I don't know that it needs to be on our study meeting agenda in that case.
Right.
The information, excuse me, the information is created weekly, but the report you're seeing is an aggregation. So it's created specifically to the council's request.
But two things I agree with you. One, I would like to take it off the regular agenda, our study meeting agenda. And second, for me, I would still like to know, and I mentioned this to Wayne, if anything unusual happens, as you mentioned, Councilman Bueller, if a department is overtaken by a huge influx of cases among the employees and they're having trouble staffing, we would want to know that. But if someone in a department gets sick, they would cover that anyway. We don't really need to know that, but if it's going to impact the city in any significant way, I think we would want to have those highlighted to us. Or if there was any significant city event, like additional testing locations, we would just be made aware of that at that time, not weekly.
Then to, then to Karen's point though, if this information's out there, could it just be shared with us without requiring a separate report being written up for us?
It would actually be easier to just assemble the report on a weekly basis. That way we've got a deadline, we've got people that are reporting, and I know it's getting out, as opposed to, I mean, we have actually literally daily changes to that. So to pick a time and then assemble that is actually easier than just throwing the information out there as we get it.
So let me ask you this then, does it need to be weekly?
I would like to receive it weekly.
Well, maybe we just have the report and not have it on our agenda. I'd be happy
Okay.
with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I don't think it should be on the agenda.
I think the fluid nature of the whole thing makes it a weekly thing. You know, it changes weekly. My grandson came home from high school today and said, well, we've been dismissed until December 2nd because we went from 7 to 15 cases in the high school today. So, you know, it's a fluid thing. It changes, as Wayne says, hourly. But I think if we get it at least once a week, we can pass that on to our residents and let people know that, yes, we do need to still take precautions.
Well, I think it's interesting information, but we don't make any decisions from it, of course, because we don't have that responsibility, that authority. It's the county and the state.
Yeah,
And,
it doesn't need to be an agenda item, but an information item that is sent out to us, I think would be helpful.
Okay, we'll continue with that for now then. Okay, Wayne?
Sounds good, Mayor. Also, I do have 2 points for update tonight. One is you didn't get your report this week because the increase in the speed of cases actually broke one of the elements that we put into the report, which is that graph on the bottom that kind of shows the heat, waxes. It used to be waxing and waning. Now it's just been waxing. So we're going to pull that off of the report anyway, and I'll get you this week's report either tonight or tomorrow. The other point that I was going to, the point of interest is we actually had our first employee case ending up being hospitalized this week. So the person in question doesn't seem to be in grave danger, but it was significant enough to be hospitalized. And out of our number of employees now in total, which numbers in the 20s across the months, I've kind of dreaded that moment and this would happen. But on the other hand, it is kind of a testament to our efforts that this is the first time it's happened. So we're not happy about it, and we'll obviously be watching that employee very closely.
Wayne, please, if the opportunity presents itself, communicate to that employee that certainly our concern and our prayers are with that individual in the hospital, as they are for all others who are there. But because he's our employee, we especially note that.
Absolutely. Thanks. I will.
Okay. Then let's see. Council calendar, anything there? Future agenda items?
I think have a couple I want to bring them up to you guys. The first one is about police officers, a side job, when they're off duty. One of the Georgia school in my district is the Root Georgia school, and they need the police officer really bad because the trouble kids there, and sometimes they have done something that's the unwise thing, and police officer had to jump in, and that happened already. Jump in to help the teacher, and I see real concern about if we don't have any police officer work for a school, going to cause a problem, and that's really scary. One thing, and the second thing is about the towing company. We try to scale down 15 companies, and I think we just let them compete each other if they qualify to get into a bid circle, whatever we call it, and let them do it, and they can survive, and we don't have to worry. I mean, because I think we worry too much about. I mean, they make their money. I think that's not our business. And I think they just let that let the stuff take care by themselves, and they can, if they can survive, they can do that. And if they not survive, they have to find a job for themselves. We just basically if we do that, we scaled out for 15 companies. We basically will guarantee for the 15 companies basically guarantee income, and I think it's unfair for other people out there. I think they maybe to reconsider that.
Okay, now those two items were actually listed on our agenda because they were brought up in our public comment last week. And I continue to get some phone calls and email. In fact, I got another one just this evening.
I got 4 this evening, Mayor.
Okay. Here's the question. Normally, these are operational issues, and we don't get involved in those. But because it's got some visibility, it's kind of like if you get a lot of questions on ordinance enforcement, that's perhaps not a good comparison, but do we want to take any further discussion? We've had some discussion on these items, and personally, am I concerned some with them? Yeah, but I don't know what I can offer to improve it. So I'm just saying to the council, what do you want to do?
In my opinion, both the items, both the towing rotation and the secondary employment, are administrative items, not legislative items. And we're the legislative branch. And so they really don't fall under our purview. Yes, they're part of the city happening and everything. And so that puts them out there, but they are administrative items.
Well, I think I would say the following. As elected officials who represent the public, anything they're interested in, we can and should bring up if we feel so inclined. Although generally all administrative functions are the responsibility of our city manager, as a city council with not an elected mayor who runs the city, that responsibility falls to us, and it is within our responsibility, and we can request that. Normally we don't, because functionally it doesn't work that well. But yes, everything does fall under the city council.
Certainly.
And so it just depends on what we want to do. I don't encourage that necessarily, but because these have been brought up by citizens, residents, etc., I wanted to put it before the council and see whether you wanted to pursue any more on it or not.
Well, and
So-
they've been brought up now,
Go
they've been brought up before. My thought on it is that it was good to have the report from the police department. I was personally unaware that when our police officers are out there with our cars and our liability, that they are negotiating their own deals, and I was not in favor of that. I'm glad to hear that is changing. On the tow rotation, I don't feel like I have the expertise or want to acquire the expertise to weigh into that. They know it has to be 30 companies or 50 companies or every company or one company. These are certainly operational decisions, and with the information that we've received, I don't think that they are so far out of line that we need to draft a resolution and take a vote on them. I would leave them with the police department and with the city management.
See, and I think there's a large enough impact on our citizens and businesses that we should take an interest in them. The complaint has been we don't have the personnel to take care of it. And if it's just hiring one more person to be able to do this, I would rather go that route than compromise the safety of our citizens. I truly think both of these are a safety issue. And we don't tell any of our other employees what they can do for secondary employment if they go find it on their own. Our police cars are there to and from. I don't see the sensibility of them going home and getting in a personal car and then going out. I'm sure some of our other fleet cars are used for personal use as well. So I just think it's not an even playing field across all the departments.
Well, there are some very significant differences with secondary employment for police officers when they wear the city uniform and when they drive the city car. And that is requested by many businesses. And this change is impacting some of those businesses. And some have expressed concern because it's going to increase the cost to those businesses. But it has to be dealt with because if we don't do it right, there are liability concerns because they are wearing a uniform. And I asked Wayne this earlier, and I said, well, what point does, if a police officer is at a retail store or at a hospital or somewhere else at some location, when does he stop being an employee of that business or hired by that business for security, and he becomes a police officer again if a crime is occurring? There are a lot of issues here. This is very significantly different from all other outside employment. So, but it sounds like I've had 3 express an interest in it. 3 haven't said much. Lars don't want to follow up on it. Jake?
I agree with Steve Bueller and that we should let the police department handle it.
Okay, Jake? This is just to have further discussion,
I'm of the same opinion around, excuse me, secondary employment for the police, but I am interested in additional, I do think that we have to address the issue with the tow truck companies and I trust the decision that's being made. I think I would like more information to refute or to clarify the accusatory nature of a lot of the emails that we've been getting about, the city was in cahoots with one particular trucking company or this, those type of things, because I'm not in the full know. And obviously I don't suspect that that is the case, but if I could get a few bullet points that clarify those issues that have been brought up from these other companies to assert the fairness and the equity of this policy, et cetera, then that's something I would like to request.
Okay. Now, if I'm judging this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like we don't want to put this back on our agenda per se to have presentations or discussions, but rather some more information that maybe could come to individual council members.
For me, that's fine. Yeah, and I think that, you know, through the emails and through people getting on the Zoom for city council, I think there has been adequate or ample opportunity for people to voice their concerns. I
Okay.
just want some information for myself to be able to refute that or clarify when people come to me directly about it.
Yeah, in fact, I asked Wayne about getting a little bit more specific information on a few items. But so that took care of that. It's not on our agenda. We are at basically 6:30, and we don't have a need for a closed session. Are there any urgent council reports, or can we hold that till next week? I still want to take a brief break. Everyone needs to have just a moment between the meetings. So anything urgent we need to do before we close our study meeting?
I won't be here for the next meeting. Just
Okay,
that.
Tom, yeah, we'll excuse you in that meeting then. With that then, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Without objection, we will stand adjourned. Hearing no objection, it was unanimous. We'll see you then in just 5 at the very most, 10